Good evening, Miami. Good evening to the world. Delia Perullera from Florida. How are you this evening? And here I am on take 8, practicing the International Summit presentation about who is the hero in your life. Who is the hero? The one that puts in practice imagination, intuition, will, memory, perception, and reasoning. And can I take you back to the age of 5, the age of 13, 20 years old, all the way to 80? Can you put yourself in those ages for a moment as you listen to the recollections? You may not have anything in common with these recollections except of the age, but I'm going to take you there to ignite in you the power to exercise your desire in this world, to make your life glide, have fun, and feel better about yourself, and help others around you. So at the age of 5, driving and cruising through Cuba, from one end to the other in the island, in a Farline 500 1958, with her parents and her sister in the back seat, visiting relatives like grandparents, cousins, aunts, and uncles, celebrating the holidays like Christmas, vacationing in the summer at Varadero, Santa Maria del Mar, Guanabo, Jibacoa, or simply going to the movies or to eat ice cream. Who can relate to any of that? Everything changed by the time that the calendar hit 1959 in January. For the island had a new way of living, and it was not one of abundance. The mother got on fire and got all the passports ready for the family of 4 with the intention to flee the country and make a new life in the United States. But that didn't materialize. Instead, they endured communism for 7 years. From 59 to 1964, they were at home with a tutor, the girls, learning the basics in elementary. After that year, it was mandatory that if you wanted a pair of shoes, you had to attend public education with Fidel Castro's indoctrination. So out the door we went every morning, one of the girls in 4th grade and the other one in kindergarten. And life went on. And the summers were still spent at the beach with family and other relatives and friends. And the food was bought in the black market, for there was no abundance, only long lines to find out that when your turn came, there was nothing to buy. And life went on. 7 years later, 1967, in February, the family flies out of Cuba in a 2-stop flight, first in Portugal and then Paris, to end up in Madrid, Spain. When we landed in Portugal, a big breakfast of eggs and bacon was waiting for all the exile Cubans on that plane, a propeller airplane that had flown for 19 hours without any stops until Azores Islands. And the Cubans looked the other way, for they were sick and tired of eating eggs plus green pea soup for the past 7 years. And the parents told the girls, at least eat the toast, eat the bread, for we don't know where the next meal's coming from. So they did. And out to the airplane they hop again. And on their way out of the restaurant, they saw little shops, the ones that they have around airports. And the older girl was looking at one of the window cases full of wallets, keychains, and pens. For you see, 19 hours before boarding that airplane, her 22 Carroll Point fountain pen was confiscated by the government. So her father put his hand on her shoulder and said, "Don't worry, someday you will be able to buy these pens. You see, when you left Cuba in 1967, you could not bring out any cash, any money, and credit cards were not around. The only thing that you could bring out were 6 changes of clothes and the one you had on." So life went on. We boarded the plane for 5 more hours, landing in Paris. Don't recall the name of the first airport, but all I know is that we boarded a bus that took us across town to Orly Airport. And on the way there, every block in that city was full of fruit stands. And the Cubans in the bus were screaming, "Manzanas, peras, uvas." They were experiencing abundance from inside a bus window. What are the odds? How crazy can that be? But that's the way that it was, for they had not seen apples, grapes, and pears since 1960. Those fruits came from the United States. They don't grow in Cuba. We had pineapples and manzanos, bananas, and mangoes, I said, right? Pineapple, mangoes, and manzanos, which are little bananas. But those were bought in the black market too. You had to know a farmer to get this on the black market, for the stores didn't have much. So how was our day in Paris? As we exited the bus, the father says to the older girl, "Go get a cart to put the luggage in." And she looks inside the train of carts inside the airport, and all the carts are hooked up, and you have to have coins to release them. So she comes back outside and says, "Dad, there's no way that we can get a cart. You need coins to get a cart." Then this lady boards a taxi, and she leaves her cart free on the curb. I see it, look at it, and before I knew it, my father had the cart and had put all the luggage in. We were a happy family that day, for we had freedom. We had sandwiches to eat that he took from the airplane. The last hour that we were flying, there was a big tray of sandwiches that the flight attendant passed, and my father took a plastic bag and filled it up with sandwiches. Maybe 8 or 10, I don't know. But we had enough to eat, and we waited for our flight to Spain on Iberia Airlines. And the next morning at 12:30, 1 o'clock in the morning, we boarded that plane to Madrid, landing in Barajas an hour later. We walked, what do you call it, the walkway? I guess in Espanol es la pista. I want to say the walkway. And as we entered the airport, my father ran into a man that to me was a stranger. They hugged, and I saw the man put a $5 bill on his left pocket. I smiled. Like, what are the odds? Who is this man? Well, it happened that he knew my grandfather, his dad, in Cuba, and he had a boarding house, but it was full to capacity. So he told my father, "We're going to find you a place to sleep for you and your family." Another friend came from my father's previous company before communism in Cuba and took us to his house to celebrate the freedom that night with Coca-Cola, potato chips, asparagus, and they had a couple of hard liquor drinks. And at 4 in the morning, we went to our new home, which lasted 2 weeks, for there was no heat in that house or apartment or flat. It was a flat. My parents found a better place 2 weeks later, and we were installed, and we lived there for 5 months while my father got relocated in another province, working for a Swedish company, selling props plastic props to drugstores. And after he gathers enough money to rent an apartment, secure the deposit, get the electricity going, and buy food, he sends for us. And a year went by, and we were happy. The girls were learning how to speak Castilian. They had friends. They went to movies, parties, to the beaches. They ate strawberries and cream and went to church across the street from their flat. Life was great. The Fallas come to date because they celebrate that festivity 2 weeks before Lent. If you're Catholic, you know what I'm talking about. Lent is a season where Catholics cleanse themselves and renew their faith. And 2 weeks before Lent, they have these festivities in Falla where the sculptures are built out of old things, and they're sculptured with paper mache, and then they're burnt at 12 midnight in every corner in the city for 15 days. People dance, sing, drink, whether you know them or not, all over the streets. It was so much fun. And then when the festivities are finished, the father tells the older girl, "You are going to the United States." What? By yourself. Your mom's family is waiting for you in Miami Beach, and you're going with a student visa. This is the only way that we can get out. We don't have immediate relatives in the United States, just cousins and uncles. So you have to go first as a student and then claim us. So that's how we went. They drove to Madrid for 6 hours. They took me to the airport the next day. They put me on the plane, and off went Delia, flying for 7.5 hours into LaGuardia Airport in New York. Found herself with 3 pieces of luggage in a huge room, all scattered with bags, suitcases, boxes. There were not rotating belts in those days. And a nun comes up to her and says, "Do you have your luggage?" No. "How does your luggage look like? What did you bring?" "I brought a case with a Spanish guitar, a box with a statue of the Virgin Mary, about 36 inches tall, and my suitcase. Let's find it." It was crazy. The noise, the packages all over that floor. Anybody could have tripped. We found the luggage. We gave it to the bellboys to put in the bus compartment for suitcases and luggage. And it was past 6 p.m. on that March 28th of 1968. Delia missed the plane. She had to wait 5 more hours to get on the next plane to Miami, all by herself in the lobby. Just a bartender on the left in a huge bar, customizing wood and stainless steel. Beautiful. And she knew that her mom had given her $5, not $20, in case that she needed anything on the trip. So she proceeded to the bar and asked for a Coca-Cola and waited patiently for her next flight. She had faith. She knew that the next plane will come, and it did. She boarded the plane at around 35 p.m. when the nun came and got her. The Catholic Legion, I think it was called, for the Peter Pan children from Cuba living through third countries. She flies for another 2.5 hours to find herself at 2 a.m. in Miami at the airport. Family going crazy looking for her. 2 sets of uncles and aunts and cousins. Last time they saw Delia, she was 4 years old. And finally they yelled her name, "Juana Delia!" And we hugged and kissed, and they took me home. And that trip from Miami International Airport to Miami Beach was magical. Those reflecting lights on the water, huge mass of water on each side. This girl had never been in a huge mass of water with expressway over it. and the lights in South Beach. It was magical. And the next day it was all business, getting everything ready for school, all the paperwork, taking tests in middle school. She entered 8th grade, and she attended that public school for March, April, May, and June, and summer school. And the following year, she found herself a way to go to a Catholic school, but that's another story. She negotiated with Mother Superior, and she got a scholarship for her sister and her for the following year, but that's another story. So what happens next? When July comes, the parents arrive with the sister. The family has secured an apartment, the mother's family, for a month. They pay the rent and the deposit. And off to work the parents went, and the girls went to school. And 7 years passed. And in those 7 years, the third daughter was born, the third sister. And they had to move out of Miami Beach and buy a house all the way in the South. And the older girl worked at a supermarket as a cashier and assistant head teller for 6 years and went to school to become a teacher. Upon graduation, she gets a job as a teacher in kindergarten. She does many things in her career, from kindergarten all the way to middle school, clinical reading. But during those 25 years, she has 2 children. She lives in Berlin for 3 years. And after 25 years of marriage, retirement package explodes. Yes, divorce at 49 years old. Older child, boy, in college, starting his 2nd year, 13-year-old daughter at home. And why am I telling you the story? Because everyone has a magical story to tell. And I found myself as an ex-wife, an educator, a mother, and a friend, and a daughter, and a sister, and I loved all that except the ex-wife title. And I said, there's more to life. I cannot vegetate in this home for the rest of my life until I die. So I went online to find a partner in life, and what I found was my first company, where I met Sharon. And from that company, I went to another company 6 years later. And I found Sharon after I married my second husband. And we worked together in a company, and then she left. And we ended up in this new company with Rhonda and Sean Murphy. And then Sean created the secret sauce to empower all of us and to tell us that we have a worthy story to tell, to help all of you out there, especially during this pandemic season. That life doesn't end because there's Corona, or the Corona has been here for 4 or 5 months now. And we're doing this international summit to inspire you to tell your story, to find your purpose on this world, and to fulfill your desire. And remember, if you want any information about the 6 superpowers that we're all born with, just email me at delia.perullera@gmail.com. May God bless you. Bye.